let's take a look at the exercise 52, which you guys need to do. And first and foremost, you need to go to the book website, and we've been here, but in this case you'll go to the data sets. Okay, and the baseball one is the one that you're looking for. So you click on that, and I'm not going to, just for the sake of time, but you click on that and copy that into your workbook, much like we have previously talked about. But then what you're going to do, it asks you some questions to do a few things, and it asks you in regards to, I think it's salaries. And what I did is I took a look at attendance then. So very similarly, but what's the typical payroll for a team? What is the range of payrolls? Well, first it asks you to create a frequency distribution for the team payroll variable and answer the following questions. Well, again, to do that frequency thing, I got to go back and do some of the things that we've looked at, right? First, I counted the number of teams, and I just did my count function, right? Again, I'm going to skip or go through some of these quickly that we've been through, and then that, I got 30 observations, you could say, and so I come back and I look. That means I'm going to have 5, okay, 5 classes. Okay, my maximum attendance was 3.57. My minimum was 1.56. That's millions, right? Okay, and the difference is 2. Okay, so I got 5 classes, and the difference 3.57 minus 1.56. So my difference is 2, and I divide that. Then this is equal to my 2.01 divided by my the 5 classes. So I end up with a 0.402, and I'm just going to round that up to 0.5, right? And I'm just kind of looking at that saying, I could probably start then at 1.5, and it's going to take me up to 4. Okay, so I set up my classes 1.5 up to 2, 2 up to 2.5, 2.5 up to 3, etc. Okay, and excuse me. Okay, so I've made my classes then here, okay, and then I had to do a little sleight of hand to figure this, and I used the count function, right? Okay, so the first one's pretty easy. All I did was, and I'll go over here to demonstrate, but I said, okay, count if, and that's on my most recently used, but I could go to the stats, but since I've been using that, my range was here. So we get my range kind of outlined there, and my criteria is just that if it's less than, I know that I'm kind of at the bottom rung, so this is going to be there's none below 1.5, so it's going to be less than any of them, less than any that are less than 2, any of them that are less than 2. Yeah, let's phrase that correctly. Okay. And so that gives me the 7. The second one became a little bit more difficult. I was trying to figure out how to do the formula here, and sometimes you got to go back and remember that it's easier than what you think. So I did the count if, and I did my range is the same, right? Okay. And my criteria then, I said, well, if it's less than, less than 2.5, right? Okay, but that gives me 17, and that's wrong, right? Okay, because that's all of them that are less than 2.5, so it includes all of these that are between 1.5 and 2. And yet I was trying to make a fancy formula, and then I finally said, maybe if I just subtract these ones from this, that will work. And so I've got my formula here, and I just want to make it kind of clean. Well, I can come up here where it says count if and past that parentheses, then I can left click and then put a minus, and I want to subtract this cell, or the contents of this cell, which is 7. And I go boom. Okay. When I got to here, then I had to subtract this cell and so on. So I had to kind of continually add a subtraction. How's that? I had to continually subtract an additional cell, okay, in order to get those answers. But then that gave me this distribution, right? Okay, and it asks me up above then, it says create a frequency distribution for the team. Your guys' is payroll, but I'm doing attendance. And so and you see what the frequency distributions look like in your other charts, and so I simply went to, here I'll just get rid of this one and redo it. How's that? I simply went to insert, and I wanted to highlight, and in this case I can highlight these things here, and I came to this chart because that looked like the one I was going to do, and you know, it looks about right. Boom, I can move this any place and I can resize it. I'm going to do that just for the sake of fitting it into my spreadsheet here. That's a little bit too small though, because it really kind of, there we go. I needed some separation between my labels down here. So there you go, right? And it gives me a kind of a nice looking chart, and I think you're just going to ask you, you know, comment on the slope of the chart. You know, it's generally heading downhill, meaning that there's fewer teams that draw lots of fans. Okay, but we got a little spike here between this 3 to 3.5, and that might be my comment. Kind of two sentences there. Okay, then it goes further, your guys's does, and it says draw a cumulative frequency distribution. And then it asks you some questions based on that. So let's go, and first we got to do the cumulative frequency, right? Okay. Well, remember when we're doing the frequency and we want to do the percentages, this gives us the frequency by number, but we got to have our total, and then we do our frequency based on a percentage, which is simply equal to this one divided by this one, and we use our F4 key again to make that that reference to this table, and then I can just do that. Okay, and I added it up just so I could get a total there, and I got my 100%. Okay, but I'm going to do a cumulative frequency, so that's going to be kind of starting at the bottom and then kind of increasing a little bit. And so how'd I do that? Simply stated, this was equal to this one here. Okay, just the base number. Okay, and then to make it cumulative, I have to add this one to this one, and then add this one, and then add this one, right? And I did that just by clicking there and saying this is equal to, okay, this plus this one. Okay, these references, I want both of them to move, and then I'll be fine. I hit my enter, and that gives me that, and then actually I can just grasp this and drag it down, and that gives me my 100%. Okay, now another little trick here that we can do in Excel is I want to do that cumulative frequency distribution chart so I can kind of answer some of these other questions a little bit, and I need to. So I'm going to go to insert up here, and then I'll highlight this, left click, just kind of drag down, and that highlights that. I lift off, I quit clicking, I guess, but then I hit and hold down my control key, and I can come over and highlight those 5 cells as well. So I've got all those highlighted, and I take my finger off the control key and take my finger off the left click, and then I come back up and say I want to do this kind of a chart again, and that looks pretty good actually. And again, I can change the colors or do different things, but I kind of like this. And so this is telling me that in a cumulative basis, right, I've got, you know, about 20% of the teams, you know, draw from 1.5 to 2 million, and I got, you know, 85 or 90% of the teams draw. Actually, that would be 3.5 million or less. Okay, and I probably should change my label here. I probably should have when I did this, right? Because this would have been 1.5 up to 2, and this would have just said up to 2.5, up to 3, and I could come here, I think, and change my labels. I don't know if I can. I might have to do it a little bit different. Okay, text options. So there's ways I could do that in all likelihood, but I probably should have just changed it here, made another column, and then I could have done it like that. It would have worked out a little bit better. But in any event, that gives you an idea, and it would allow me to answer the questions. Your guys' is the same way. You're dealing with different numbers because you're dealing with salaries versus attendance, but setting it up should be the same.